Hey guys, welcome back to another Cinema 4D tutorial, and we're going to continue on with the sub-D modeling series. In this lesson we're going to do something a little different. Rather than model an object, we're going to go over some quad exercises. We did something similar to this back in lesson 16 where we reduced the geometry of a plane while maintaining quads. So this is going to be something similar to that, but this is going to be a little bit more in-depth and a little different. So what I have here is a plane that's been subdivided a few times horizontally, and we're going to start at the top and we're going to try to solve these problems working our way down. So right now this is 1-to-1, and what I mean by that is up at the top we have one face and we want to try to reduce it down to 1 at the bottom. Well, of course right now there's nothing to reduce here because it's 1-to-1, so there's nothing to do. But if I were to take this top face and split it in half, now we have two quads. So now this is 2-to-1. So that means we have two quads that we need to reduce down to 1. And we should be able to do this here in the second face here. I just gave us some extra geometry down here just in case we need it. So the problem is that we no longer have quads now because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a 5-sided polygon here. That's an uneven number, and uneven number sides on a polygon tends to be a little problematic. That's why you always want to try to stick with even numbered sides, even if it's something like 6 or 8 or 10, at least it's an even number. But in this case it's 5, so we'll have to do a little bit of work. So in order to solve this, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. The first way to do this is to make a cut across. Take this point here and just continue the cut down and then weld that point down to there. Now we've solved the problem. Now we've got a quad here, and a quad here. So we've gone from 2 to 3 down to 1. So that's one way of solving that one. So another way to solve this one would be to make a diagonal cut across. And we have a quad here. You can see 1, 2. Even though these two edges here are in line, it still counts as 2, 3, 4. So that's a quad, but we have 3 over here on this side. So the only way to really fix this is just to introduce an extrusion into the side. And then we can just make a cut across there. And now we have all quads again. We got a quad there, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was 2-to-1, but what about 3-to-1? So let me undo this a couple of times to get our back to 1-to-1 ratio that we had. There we go. So what if this was 3-to-1? So let's tell you what, let me undo that. There we go. So let's make some cuts here. So now we have 3-to-1. So we need to solve this because right now this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, this should be a little easier because this is a 6-sided face here, and that's an even number. So one way that we could fix this, because we're going 3-to-1, well, again, we could just make a horizontal cut across here, and we want to take these two middle cuts here and bring them down, and then take these 2 points here and weld them down to the corners, and there we go. So we've gone from 3 to 1, 2, 3, 4 down to 1. Okay, so what about 3-to-2? So let me undo that a couple times. All right, so now we have 3, but we want to go to 2. So how would we do that? So I'm just going to split this one down here into 2. And what we want to do is we want to maintain quads, but we want to go from 3 down to these 2. And I'm going to try to do I'm going to try to fix this and solve it here in this second one. So I'm going to go ahead and just make the cut up to there because this is the face where I'm going to try to solve it at. All right, so one way to do this is just to take these two and tie them off down here, but that creates a triangle. That's a 3-sided polygon. So to fix that, we can just make our cut across there, or you could do it over on the left-hand side. And that pretty much solves it because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Those 4 edges make the quad. So that would be 3-to-2. All right, so what about 4-to-2? Okay, so let's undo that a couple of times. And let's get rid of all those lines. And let's go 4-to-2. So what I'm going to do now, instead of cutting these manually, I'm going to grab the loop path cut tool, and I want to make a cut, and we're going to go from 4 to 2, but I want to make 4 cuts up here in this first upper face up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, I'm going to use the loop range, and I'm going to turn that on, and that's only going to make a cut up here on that top face, because the range is set to 1. If I set it to 2, it'll go down to the next face. So I only want to go just to the first one right now. And there's 2 faces there, 2 quads, and we want to make this 4 because we're going to go from 4 to 2. So I'm going to click on that. But I think I may have encountered a bug, because as soon as I start playing around with these plus and minus buttons up here, notice that now this tool is making the cut all the way through, even though I have loop range selected and turned on. So I'm using R18 for this. I think it's R18.057, which I think was the latest update for R18. Maybe some of you guys with R19 or R20, maybe you can test this out to see if this is actually working in a newer version. But in order to kind of get around this, you got to come back down here and take the range up and then back down, and then it makes those cuts there. So if I were to go up here and reduce it again, you can see once again it's kind of messing up there, and the cut's going all the way down. All right, so we got 4 up here, and we want to go down to, I think it was 2. So we'll split the bottom one off at 2. And again, I'm going to try to solve this one up here in that second face. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is this center line. We just need to keep it in line with the center line that we created coming from the bottom. So we'll just go ahead and connect those. And I'm going to make a horizontal cut across the center. I'm going to bring these 2 edges down to that, and then just weld those to the bottom. And there you go. So we went from 4 to 2. Actually, it's more like 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 2. But we reduced it down somewhat, even though we got a couple extra quads in there. But that's one way of doing it, going from 4 to 2. All right, now what about something a little more difficult? Maybe 5 to 3. How would we do 5 to 3? All right, so let me undo this a couple of times. And we'll go back to the loop tool here. Okay, that will give us 5. Okay, and what did I say? 5 to 3, I think. Okay, so there's 3 at the bottom. And again, I think I'm going to try to solve this in one face if I can. So let's go ahead and just take these all the way up like that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take these outside edges here, not the very outside of the plane, but these here, and we want to tie that off to the 2 that are coming up from the bottom. So we'll connect those, and I'm going to make a horizontal line across here again. I'm going to cut an edge through there, and we want to take these 2 and bring them down to that one. And then these 2 points here on the outside here, we're going to weld those straight down. So we'll weld those 2 to there, weld those down, and there we go. We just solved it. So we went from 5 down to 3. We have 5 up here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 3. All right, so I think you get the idea of what needs to be done here. You can mix this up however you like. You can start with 6 up here, and then in the middle, maybe you can have 2, and then down here you can have 4. So you have to find a way to go from 6 to 2 to 4 while staying in quads. All right, so let's go ahead and delete that. All right, so now let's talk about edge flow. So I'm going to create a plane. And I think that should give us enough subdivision. All right, so I'll tell you what, let's go get the doodle tool for a moment. All right, so let's say that we want to redirect the edge flow. So we'll go down here into this corner, and let's say that we, right now these edges are flowing horizontally and vertically. But what if we want these edges to take a 90-degree turn and we want to redirect the flow? So let's say we have these edges going this way, and then right about here in the middle of this polygon, we want to take a 90-degree turn downward, and we want it to go this way. So how would we do that? Well, if we go get the loop tool, it's going to go all the way through, and there's really no way to tell this to go down. And the reason why is because there's nothing there to redirect that edge cut to go downward. So the way to do this, just wherever you want this edge flow to be redirected at, and we'll just do it somewhere around here. What we'll do is we'll just make the cut to about there. This is the polygon face here where the redirect is going to happen at. And I just want to make a cut down here, all the way down to the bottom. Now we've created a little bit of a problem here. You can see that there is a triangle there. So we just need to go up here to this corner point and make a cut to about there, and we'll just push that back into place like that. And now we have solved the issue with the triangle. We now have quads there, but not only that, we have now created the area where the cut will be redirected. You can see that through here, the cut is still going all the way through. It's just kind of diverted upward a little bit there. And if we go here, that one is still going that way. But if we go here, it's now taking a 90-degree turn and going downward. Now there's another way of doing this. What I just showed you there was basically the manual way of doing it. But there's another way of doing it. We're going to, if you go to polygon mode, just select the faces here, do an extrude inner. And now we can select these faces along here, can delete them. And let's select that row of points and just push it over. And the same for the one down here on the bottom. So it's the same thing, just two different ways of doing it. You can do it manually, or you can use the extrude inner. Okay, so let's move on over here. Now, what would happen if you wanted to kind of do like maybe a U-turn with your edge flow? So I'll get the doodle tool once again. And let's say we want these edges to go up here, and right about here we want them to turn and go this way, and then we want them to come back down here. Okay, well you can do it the manual way, is what I showed you earlier. You can just make the cut up here and then tie it off to those corner points. Or you can grab your polygons that you need to select, do the extrude inner, delete that bottom row, and there's some unwanted points there. We'll just clean those up, pull those down, and now that edge is now going up and back down around. All right, so there's another way to do this, and we'll go up into this corner up here to do it. So this is going to be similar to what we did down here in this corner. So what we could do is just weld these 2 points to the center, and we'll do this a little ways down like there. We'll do like that. So we just kind of welded those into the center edge. Now this one here, this point here, we want to pull that down just a little bit. I want to go into polygon mode. We'll select those two triangles there in the middle and just do a dissolve command to dissolve them. And now we have all quads there, and if we use the loop path tool again, you can see it's now taking a 90-degree turn and is going downward. Okay, so what we're doing here is it's going this way, hitting here, and then coming down. So that's another way of doing it. Let's go up here to this corner. And another way that we can do this, let's say we want this edge to come down here and then go this way. So we can take these 3 points here on the face where this edge flow is going to go, because we want the edge flow to come down, and then right here in the middle of this face we wanted to take a 90-degree turn and go over to the right hand side. So this is the face here where it's going to happen. So these three outer points, we just want to weld those together into one. Now notice that we've created a turn here, but we've also created some issues over here. So now we need to kind of solve that. And one way to solve it is just to weld all of these down. And of course, I'm just going to ignore this part over here. What we'll do is we'll just say that that comes to an end there. And then also these here, we can just weld those over to there. And assuming that the rest of this also gets cut off, and that's another way of doing it. So basically what I did was I took those three outer points and just combine them into one. So let's do this again. So basically we want our edge flow to go this way, and then right here on this face we want it to go down. So on that corner face where the 90-degree turn happens, the three outer points, you don't want to select the inside one, but the three outer points will be welded into that corner point. So this one will go to the corner here, this one will go up here, and now there is our change in direction. You can see here that you can make your cuts along there, and now the flow has been changed. And then just to get rid of these up here, all you need to do is just remove that edge. You can remove the edge, or you could just weld the points over like that. So that would be another way to change the edge flow. All right, so we'll do one more. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. We're going to start with a new plane object. So create a plane. All right, so what if we want something a little more advanced this time? So let's say, I'll tell you what, let me go get the spline tool. So what if we want our edge to go up here, from here, then we go up here to here, back to here, over to here, down, and then over. All right, so that's going to be a little difficult to see. So let me take the spline and change the color to something a little more vibrant. And we'll just bring that back over like that. Okay, so that is the path that we want our edge loop to take. Now, I know it's a little radical for this, and you're usually not going to find this type of path, but it makes good practice just to kind of come in here and learn how to solve this with quads in order to get the flow to follow after this pattern. All right, so I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and we'll start here at this polygon, and I'm just going to take these 3 points and weld them into one at that top corner. That's going to give us this diagonal cut, or this edge that's going to redirect our edge flow. We'll need to do the same here. We'll do the same here. And I think by now, more than likely, most of you are getting the idea of what you need to do. So we'll do the same here. Do one here, and I think there's one more turn right here. All right, now we need to fix some of these issues, and it's pretty simple to do because the geometry that we're working with is just a regular plane object, so there's not really anything too crazy with it. So we just need to select these points and just kind of weld them over out of the way. So that solves that issue. We also have this here. We're just welding these points, and technically I could select the edge and just weld it over. But there's really not a lot here to do. And back over here, we can do the same on this side. Sometimes this polygon pen tool can be a little tricky. All right, so let's go over here and let's talk about this one. I see we've got some up here in the corner really quick that we can take care of. All right, so we've got this issue right in here. So we could just weld these points up. And this here, we can go into polygon mode and just select that. Select those two triangles and just dissolve them, and that should clean that up. And then here we can just weld all of those over as well. All right, now here we have a little bit of an issue here as well. So we just weld those over like that. All right, so this here looks like it might be a little tricky. And I was thinking about maybe welding some of these points up or down, but I think more than likely the best route to go is just to take that quad, which it's not really a quad, it's two triangles. But if we take that and dissolve it, it now becomes a quad. So now we've solved that issue. And of course, we've got this up here at the top. And we can just weld those points, get them out of the way. And I think that about solves it. I don't think there's any more here in the way. It looks pretty good. All right, so what we can do now is turn off the spline. I'm gonna go grab the loop path cut tool. I'm gonna select here, and you can see that now those, that newly formed edge that we're creating there, it is following the path that we had that was laid out by the spline. All right, guys, so that about wraps it up. Hope that these little exercises have helped you. Again, I know we really didn't model anything, just kind of went over some of these exercises, but I hope that it was helpful. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial.